We saw some bad stuff happen over the weekend, guys. I'm sure you've heard about it by now. We saw Israel attack Iran, and then we saw Iran retaliate. On Friday, we saw a lot of volatility in the markets. We saw the stock market down. We saw gold and oil up big. And now on Monday, it's Monday right now, we're seeing a bit of a different story. So, in this video, we're going to cover the recent escalation in the Middle East and talk about what it means for different assets like the stock market, gold, Bitcoin, oil, and more. Before we do get into it, please make sure to like the video and also subscribe to the YouTube. I really appreciate your support. I'm also going to put a QR code down below for a Bitcoin tip. So if you want to support me and this channel, feel free to leave me a little tip. Now let's get into it. Let's dig into the details a bit here. On June 13th, we saw Israel launch their attack on Iran, Operation Rising Lion. Interesting name there. They targeted Iran's nuclear facilities, their military infrastructure, and their senior leadership. Israel struck Iran's nuclear enrichment facility in Natanz. They hit over 100 military sites. They assassinated 3 top Iranian military leaders, and as of the latest numbers that I've seen, at least 224 deaths were reported in Iran. So, not great, right? Why did Israel come out and make this bold move, make this attack, this really devastating attack on Iran? Well, the reasoning for this attack was they view Iran as an existential threat due to their Iran getting closer to acquiring a nuclear weapon and a powerful nuclear weapon. And they wanted to basically, fight against this, right? So that's why they targeted their nuclear enrichment facility in Natanz. We saw Iran retaliate on June 13th and June 14th with Operation Severe Punishment. I don't really like the sound of that. Doesn't sound good. Iran sent over 100 ballistic missiles into Israel. They targeted key cities like Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and others. And as of the latest numbers, I've seen at least 14 people have been killed in Israel, and many have been injured in both Israel and Iran. Now let's talk about the economic impact of this escalation in the Middle East. The main thing that we saw on Friday was that crude oil was spiking up in price. Crude oil was up 7.43% on the day. And the main reason that we saw this big spike in the price was because Israel hit an Iranian oil facility. And it's projected that them hitting that facility is going to lead to a production outage of 12 million cubic meters per day. And as we see this conflict continue to escalate, right, it's located right in the middle of this OPEC territory where 30% of the world's oil production is done. That is not going to be good for the oil market, right? If there is this conflict going on, it's going to lead to disruptions in oil production and the energy trade. This increase on Friday was the largest single day gain that we've seen since March of 2022. So it is a bit alarming. And with oil up, with energy costs up, we saw the stock market down, which makes sense, right? If oil is going up, it means that all of these businesses are going to have higher energy costs. Now, we did see the oil price fall today, so we did see the market kind of recover in a way today. The stock market was down 1.1% on Friday, and today on Monday, the stock market is up around 1%. So we will see what happens here, but I don't think this is good for the stock market, right? When energy costs are going up, when there is uncertainty out there, when we're having a conflict in this critical region across the globe where a lot of trade heads through, that is not good for the stock market. And I think it's important that we don't necessarily measure the stock market's performance in dollar terms, because every time we have one of these global negative catalysts, people are always like, oh, the stock market is going to tank, right? The stock market is going to crash. But the thing is, the dollar supply is continuing to increase. People are continuing to lose trust in the dollar. And let's say you have a good reason to move out of the stock market. Well, are you going to move into the dollar or U.S. Treasuries, which have been performing horribly? You got to have at least another plan, right? You got to have another asset to move into. And I think that a lot of people are just realizing that they just don't want to hold dollars, right? So I think there are better options out there with all this uncertainty than the stock market. But I think that the money supply will continue to increase. And with that, it's difficult to, the stock market may continue to just increase in dollar terms. Now, is it increasing? Is it going up in real terms? That's the real question we should be asking ourselves. And with all this uncertainty, with this escalation, I think that the assets that are really benefiting from this are these neutral, safe haven assets with a limited supply. And we saw gold perform very well on Friday as we got this bad news. Gold was up 1.5% on Friday. With uncertainty rising, people are moving into an asset that has continued to perform throughout history, that has continued to be reliable, and that is gold. And I put out a post on X or Nostr the other day talking about how gold's performance over the past couple of years has been the main telling sign of the global economic sentiment to me. The fact that gold has gone up 48.24% over the past year and has gone up over $1,000 per ounce over the past year is very telling about what people are feeling. People are feeling scared and they're looking for an asset that they can trust. So gold actually dropped today on Monday as we saw the stock market go up, as we saw the oil price come down. But if we continue to see uncertainty out there, and especially uncertainty when it comes to the US dollar and the bond market, I expect gold to continue to perform. Now, one asset that I think will outperform gold eventually, I'm not sure when that's going to happen, but the main reason I think this is because I think it's a better asset than gold. Has better monetary properties and is very similar to gold, just a little better, is Bitcoin. When we got the news of this escalation, we saw Bitcoin drop, which makes sense. Bitcoin is typically a leading indicator. I believe we got this news on Friday night when the stock market was closed. So Bitcoin was the only way for people to really express this negative sentiment. But Bitcoin recovered nicely into the weekend and is up today around 107K or 108K. One thing I've thought about here is, will this escalating conflict in the Middle East result in more dollar demand and more demand for dollar assets like US debt? And I think it could, right? If we are heading into a more, hopefully not a world war type scenario, but a scenario where the US is more involved in these conflicts, does the world want to be on the side of the United States? Historically, that has been a good bet, and a great way to bet on the United States is to bet on the dollar, to bet on dollar assets. So I do think if we see these conflicts heating up, maybe we will initially see people moving into the dollar and into dollar assets. But we know that war is expensive, right? It takes a lot of spending to fund a war effort. And it also takes a lot of spending to keep your economy afloat if you're the United States. If we are to head into a more significant conflict that's going to affect the U.S. stock market, we may see more stimulus. We will see government spending to fund the war effort. And with that, that is going to lead to more inflation, right, as the dollar supply increases. So yes, we may see more dollar demand initially, but the more we see the government spend money and the dollar supply increase, the more people lose trust in these dollar assets. And I think that more and more people are going to leave from that treasuries market or that dollar market and move into something like gold or Bitcoin, because they are just not going to trust an asset where the supply continues to increase more and more over time. That's going to wrap it up for this video. My main takeaway is that anytime we see an escalation in one of these conflicts, anytime we see a rise in uncertainty, that is just another reason to move into these scarce, uncorrelated assets like Bitcoin and gold. And I think that Bitcoin has a lot more upside, and I think it will continue to eat into gold's market a bit. And I think that anytime we have one of these escalations, it's not great for the stock market. It's not great for business as it disrupts trade. It leads to uncertainty like we're seeing here. It can lead to increased energy costs. We'll see what happens with the oil price. And it's not great for government money, dollar assets, U.S. treasuries, because it's going to lead to more government spending, right? The government needs to spend money to fund wars, and that's going to lead to inflation. So I know I'm starting to say this every video. It seems like we're finding more and more reasons to move to these safe haven assets, and that's where I am hanging out. If you didn't like and subscribe, please make sure to do that now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon.